Excited? So let's do this. Oh, no, we were cutting, so we have to make sure we great. All right, so I'm Simon, and we got Susie here. She's going to say hello again. No? That's Susie. That's a classmate, will say. So I'm Simon. So I'm a French pastry chef. You can hear, okay? I'm French. So that's why today we're going to make crepe. Everyone know crepe? Yeah. You already had crepe in your life? You like it?
Yes.
But that's why you're here. Why not? All right. So so like I said, I'm a pastry chef. I'm a French pastry chef. I've been doing pastries for like 18 years, I would say. It's been a while. So a lot of crepe in my life, I would say. Oh, here we are. I'm just adding people on the chat, okay? Here we do a lot of classes. I do a lot of classes in New York. So I'm based in New York. We do a lot of classes, baking and cooking classes in New York. And right now we do a lot of virtual classes like we do today, because you know the reason today. So the goal today is to make sure everyone has got to bake nice crepe for you. So I don't know if it's lunch, dinner for you. So whatever, or even for, you know, snack. Why not? So we got to make two kinds of crepe. Okay, we got to make the regular crepe is gonna be the traditional crepe with milk, eggs, and regular flour, and we got to make the buckwheat flour. Crepe is a little more from Brittany, where I'm from. It's based with the buckwheat flour, and you don't have milk, so you kind of have gluten-free and dairy-free. You still have an egg on it, but after that, it's way a little different, a little more flavors, I would say, because the buckwheat flour is very strong on flavors compared to the, I would say, all-purpose flour. So two different batter, and doesn't matter which batter you will use today. You can do one, you can do both. It's very up to you. And then we got to learn how to use it and how to get some filling in it, okay? What I want to say is like, be creative today. We're going to use both mix, but both mix can be sweet and savory, okay? So you can mix both with everything you want. That works. So it's very up to you what you like and what you prefer for today. Sounds good? So obviously, if you have any question, just ask. If you want to show me something, let me know. Let me make sure you tell your name. So like this, I can see who's talking. Because we have quite a lot of people today, so that's great. I just want to make sure I can see who's talking. Okay? Let's do this. We? Oh, I got one rule. If you talk to me, you have to say "we chef" to me, because I'm a French pastry chef. So that's okay. All right. So you should have also received the recipe. Okay. So what I want for us to do is to take your time. Okay. We've got plenty of time to do everything. I just want to make sure we do step by step and we don't left anyone behind. Okay. So we're going to take our time. And we're going to do one step. We're going to wait for everyone to be ready before we do the next step. Okay, so don't rush anything. Okay. So first thing we're going to do today is the buckwheat batter. Okay, so if you look, it's usually it should be the second page on your recipe. We got the buckwheat crepe batter, so what we call galette in French. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to get all the ingredients before we start. So if you see me, I got this ready. So what we're going to need for this recipe is that. So obviously you see my recipes are in grams and cup because I'm based in US, but I'm French, so I use grams usually. But I got both because I know some people use cup. So what we got here, we got the buckwheat flour in your mixing bowl. So we got 2 2/3 cup of buckwheat flour. It was like 330 grams of buckwheat flour. We got a teaspoon of salt. Actually, you know what? I forget my salt. That's why you see. That's why we do that. That's why we check everything before. That's called mise en place. It's meaning that we're going to get all the ingredients, all the equipment prepared before we start anything. Because you see, I almost forgot my salt. But avoiding some mistakes. we're going to have an egg, and we got a 3 cups of water, so 750 grams of water. It's a big recipe. You got to make a lot of galettes with this recipe, but the thing is, I cannot do less than that because the 1 egg, I cannot divide the egg, so it's not easy to divide the egg. So you're going to be able to eat crepe galettes for a few days, I would say. But we're going to talk about how to keep it and do it later. Okay. So that's what I want you to do right now. Let's take a couple of minutes to get the flour, salt in your mixing bowl, water, and eggs. Okay. That's what we need for now. Nothing to me. That's good. So again, so we got 2 2/3 cup of buckwheat flour here. We got a teaspoon of salt in it. We got 1 egg and 3 cups of water. That's for the buckwheat crepe batter. And what you're going to need to also is you're going to need a whisk and a little spatula. That's all we need for this one.
Chef, we do have a question in the chat. Someone's asking, can you store the batter in the refrigerator, then cook it later, maybe 1 to 2 days later?
Yeah, so that's actually what we're going to talk a little later, but we can answer that. All the batter we're going to do today, you can keep it a few days in the fridge. Absolutely. Even the galette, you should stay a week in the fridge easily. The crepe, a little less, I would say 3-4 days, because you have the milk. So it's a little less. But here you see you got to have like just flour, water, and egg. So it's like very well for a week. So yeah, definitely. And you will see like you're going to have a lot of batter. So you're going to have some leftover after the class to do more crepe later. And I like it because like this we're going to eat crepe. We both like crepe here. So I'm going to be eating crepe for a week. Okay. All right, so what I was going to say is like we're going to make the batter for the crepe for both batter first, and then we're going to learn how to cook it and have different filling in it. So I gave you like sorry. So I gave you like some like holiday filling for today. We're going to be able to do whatever you want. Also, we're going to talk about that later. I just want to start with the batter because I like also to let it set a little bit before we use it. So we're going to do the batter quickly, and then we're going to have a little more time to talk about how to cook and how to have the filling and the flavors in it. Okay. So very easy for this one. Everyone good? Let me check. People running away. I just don't want to make sure. I don't want to have people running in the kitchen. All right. So what we're going to do, it's very simple. We're going to push the flour. You see, we're going to push the flour aside to get a little hole in the middle. And then we're going to do, we're going to add the egg in the middle. Okay. And you just have to whisk to the middle and adding the water slowly. When you add the water, so what you want to do is to kind of whisk a little circle just in the middle. If you go too fast, you got to add the flour too quickly and you got to have lumps and little pieces of flour. So what you want to do is just, you see, I'm going to do a little circle to the middle, and I'm going to add my water like this slowly. You see, I'm just adding a little water at a time, and I'm going to mix it just in the center. So like this, you just got to catch the flour from the side just by mixing from the center. That's all you need to do. Take your time. Don't rush anything.
Daddy, will you hold the bowl for me?
like if you have like this, you're just gonna have to mix it slowly from the middle like this, and you see we're going to catch the flour on the side.
Hold it.
This?
Yeah. Just move it.
Who's that?
Uh-oh, the headphones dying. They're low pat. I think I got that warning last time.
I can plug it in. Where am I charged?
You have to pour it in. I think it froze. Look, you froze.
That's not from the headphones.
Oh.
Can we just ask everyone to please mute themselves? We're hearing some back chatter over the chef right now.
It's okay, I got it.
Thank you.
All right. And you see, take your time. So you really want to go slow. Like I say, if you go too fast, that's when you got 12 lamps of flour mixed. So little by little, we have to catch and get the flour from the side mixed to the water, egg. So here you see we had the egg, the flour, the salt.
Good. Look at how he's using that whisk.
Yeah, whisk, yeah. And slowly we're going to add the water. And you see it's going to be a lot of butter. That's what I was saying. It's like you got to eat galettes for a week.
This guy is good. Look at how he's using.
And you see the buckwheat flour is very strong on flavors, and you can even smell it. Right. Now I got all my flour in. Make sure you whisk it well, okay? Give it a good whisk to make sure we get all the flour in the water and the egg, and it's gonna be nice and smooth, okay?
Niche, I'm guessing you didn't take the crepe making class.
Mm-hmm. Up. Everything is in. Make sure you whisk it well, huh? Don't be scared on that. Where you want to make it nice, no more flour lumps in it.
Chef, there's a question in there about a whisk. Do you have a type of whisk that you prefer in terms of shape or weight?
No, it's really the one you prefer. The one you feel more comfortable on it. Because if you're not comfortable with one thing, you're not going to do well. So it's very, very depending on people. You see, I got this one, I got this one, I got different ones. So it's not going to be a matter here. All right, so you see here, my batter is going to be kind of liquid but viscous, kind of, because you see it's like kind of the buckwheat flour is very strong, and it's not going to be as runny as the crepe one, the other one. It's going to be a little viscous, okay? And this, when you have everything nicely mixed together, so we got the water, we got the buckwheat flour, we got the egg, and we got the salt, okay? We mix it well, and we have to keep it in the fridge. This will go in the fridge. In the fridge. What I like to do also, let me show you why now, because I don't have much space in my fridge. What I like to do is to use like this little quart, because this is going to be a lot of mix, so it's not going to be easy to use later. So you may want to just have a little, like a part of it, like maybe a third of the mix, just for using today. The rest you can keep it for later. It's going to be much easier to have a little quart, a little part of the whole batter for today. Okay. And this we're going to. All right, let me clean up. Just a little clean up. Good. Everyone good? You got some tip making? All right, so I'm going to give you a little more time to finish the batter, okay? I'll make sure everyone is ready for the next step. All right, and then, so it's pretty easy, huh? Very easy, very simple. The only tricky part, I will say, the most difficult is to find the buckwheat flour. That's pretty much it. After that, it's very simple. In France, so in Brittany, so I don't know if you know Brittany in France, is the northwest part of France. That's where the buckwheat, like most of the buckwheat coming from Brittany. So that's why we use a lot of buckwheat flour. And the good part is the buckwheat flour, it's gluten-free. Okay, I'm not sure I say it, but the buckwheat flour have no gluten. So in this recipe, we're not going to have any gluten, no milk. We're just going to have a egg and a little butter because we're French and we use a lot of butter. Especially in Brittany. Brittany, we use a lot of butter. You know the pastry, the Queen Amman? I don't know if people know the Queen Amman is like it's like a croissant, but with more butter and more sugar. So it's caramelized croissant with butter and sugar. Croissant already have a lot of butter, but this one have even more butter. All right. I hope everyone's good. So maybe we can jump on the next recipe. I think everyone good, yep. All right, so the next recipe we're going to get also the crepe batter ready. As I said, we're going to make both batter first. So the next batter is going to be the crepe batter. Is the one with the flour, sugar, milk, eggs, butter, vanilla, and salt. Okay. So I'm going to review with the ingredients again with you. Okay. So same thing as the buckwheat. I just want to make sure everyone have the ingredients ready. So what we got here for this recipe, we got 1.5 cup of all-purpose flour on your mixing bowl. I got my all-purpose, so 1.5 cup of flour here. I got 4 teaspoons of salt. 4 teaspoons of sugar, not salt. It's gonna be way too much salt. 4 teaspoons of sugar, and I got a pinch of salt. So we got the flour, the sugar, and the salt in a mixing bowl. I got 1.5 cup of milk. Okay. I use whole milk personally. You can use any kind of milk. It's completely fine to use any kind, even like almond milk, soy milk can work too. Okay. Then I got 2 eggs, and I got a third stick of butter on my saucepan because I'm going to melt the butter. The vanilla is an option. Okay. So as I said, we can use both recipe. So the galette, buckwheat batter, and the one with the flour we've got to do now for sweet or savory, for both. If you want to do savory with this one, don't add the vanilla. Okay. If you want to do only sweet with it, add the vanilla. But if you do sweet and savory, you're still going to have the sugar. on the crepe with the flour. Okay. The vanilla is just the option.
Chef, could you do half of the vanilla to half of the batter so that it was a savory batter and a sweet batter?
Yeah, why not? You can do the batter like this without the vanilla, just divide it and then add a little vanilla. Or even if you want, some people add some rum, some like.
It is the holidays.
So you could add something. I would say you don't really want to add too much flavors, extra things on the buckwheat flour batter we just did. This one, yes, if you want to add some liquor on it, if you want to add some, I don't know, like cinnamon, some zest, lemon, orange zest, some vanilla, so what we said, yeah, you can definitely do that. And if you want to do different one, just do this big, this recipe, just divide on different bowl and then just add the flavor you want in it, okay? All right. So let's get all the ingredients ready. So see, we're going to get, again, we got 1.5 cup of flour here. We got 4 teaspoons of sugar, 1 pinch of salt, everything on the mixing board here. We got 1.5 cup of milk, 2 eggs, and a third of stick of butter. So first things to do, the time you can get everything ready, we're going to need to melt the butter. So I'm going to melt my butter right now. Take your time, okay? So like this, I can show you the step after that. So you can do it on the stove, you can do it on microwave if you want. You just want to melt your butter. I'm just doing on the stove because my camera is in front of my microwave, so I don't use my microwave. And same thing, we're going to need a whisk for that. The flavors in your batter, it's very, very up to you. Depend what you like. I will say this recipe is not a huge recipe. I will say maybe 1 or 2 pinch of spices or anything. After you can try. I mean, it's just flour, eggs, and milk, so you can try just with your finger when it's done and see if you want to have a little more or less. I mean, less is gonna be too late, but if you want to add more, so I would say add at the end. So we got to make the batter first, and then if you want to add flavors in it, we will do it after that. And you can test your batter at the same time to see if you want more or less. I mean, more or less. Again, no, not less, but. All right. So we'll see. This one is also very simple. We're gonna do the same as we did for the buckwheat. So my butter, it's melted. That's good. I'm going to stop my stove. What I want to do is to mix the flour, the sugar, and the salt. So get your whisk and whisk everything together. So the flour, the sugar, and the salt, to make sure we combine the sugar and the salt in the flour first, okay? Make sure we got sugar and salt everywhere. And then, same as the buckwheat, we got to push the flour aside on the side, up to go a little hole in the middle. We got to add our eggs in the middle. And we got to whisk it same as the buckwheat. So little circle from the middle. And then just by doing this, your eggs and your liquid going to catch the flour the side. So I'm going to start like this. And again, I'm going to add my milk. Up. Just add a little milk at a time. And slowly you will see the eggs and the milk going to catch the flour from the side. All right. And same again, take your time. Take even more time. This one go even slower than the buckwheat, because usually the regular flour, the all-purpose flour, have tendency to get more piece of flour, lumps and flour in the milk. So really take your time here to go slow from the side, from the center, and slowly you get to catch the flour around. If you go too fast, you get a piece of flour in. It's gonna be not that nice. So same thing again, huh? You see, we're going to have quite some mix. This recipe is going to make a lot of crepe. So again, you can keep it in the fridge later. So you're going to be able to do some today and then have some leftover. All right, so I got all my flour mixed to my milk, eggs, sugar, and salt. When everything is nice, make sure you whisk it well. Give it a good whisk. Make sure we get it nice and smooth. And when you have this, we're going to add the butter at the end. So the butter will be at the end, okay? And the melted butter. Oh, there we are. And don't just get to mix it well. Huh? You really want to have your batter is going to be nice and kind of liquid. It's kind of look like a sauce texture, kind of a cream texture. You see, it's very, very liquid. That's why the crepe is going to be thin. There's a big difference between, I mean, you have other difference between crepe and pancake, but the crepe, you really want to have a very, very thin, fine crepe. So we want the batter to be liquid. All right. All right. The same thing, I'm going to keep it, some of it like this. Okay, everything can go here. It's just easier if you have if you use a little bit of the mix at a time.
Chef, so we have a quick question. Somebody's asking if it feels too thick, should they add more milk?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little later, but you can add a little milk, yes. You will see also that later on, the batter, both batter, kind of get thicker with time. So a little later, like tomorrow and the few days coming, you may have to add a little more water for the buckwheat or milk for this one to make it a little more runny again. It just the flour and the milk kind of get thicker with time. All right, so this in the fridge too. So let's keep everything in the fridge when it's ready.
Are you able to make the regular crepes with water instead of milk?
No, you really need the milk. You can use any kind of milk, but you need the protein from the milk. So even soy milk have protein in it to catch the flour and get together. No, it's hard to be milk, but any kind of milk. We use the water for the buckwheat. The buckwheat and the water go together, but not the regular flour and the butter. All right, so let's make sure everyone is ready with the mix. So we should have both mix ready. So let's give a little time for everyone to be ready. And after that, we're going to talk about how to cook it and how to eat it. That's why you're here. You want to eat all of them. All right, give you 2 minutes. I'm going to get some water. So do you know where is everyone coming from a little bit, or you have different countries, or?
I believe we're mostly domestic. And if anyone is not, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and share. But yeah, I think we're mostly domestic based for this one.
Okay, sounds good. Very good. Everyone like crepe? Nice. We were in Geneva last December. No, not Geneva. No, yeah. Confused. All right. So we got both batter already. That's the, I will say, not the very interesting part. The most interesting is to cook it. All right. But first, we're going to talk a little bit of the filling. Okay. So as we say, we can use both batter, so the buckwheat or the crepe batter with the milk and the flour, for both sweet and savory. Okay. So you can do anything you want. Okay. I'm not sure what everyone's doing, but if you see the recipe, we are saying like, let's do a little more for the holidays filling. So what I got is I got some brie, okay, because I'm French, I'm going to use brie, and spinach. And I'm going to have a little onions. Actually, I got some onions. So I'm going to have a little onions on it. That's gonna be for my savory one. I'm going to use the buckwheat for this one, but again, do the one you like, the one you prefer. For the sweet, we said we got to use some chocolate and peppermint candy. Okay. So what we want to do is to make sure we got everything ready on filling before we start cooking. Okay. The cooking is going to be very fast for the crepe. So what you want to do is to make sure we got all the filling ready, all the equipment ready. So we're going to do that together before we start anything. Because cooking crepe is going to take a couple of minutes. That's all. So if you're not ready and you don't have all your ingredients and things ready, you're going to be running in your kitchen. That's not good. Okay. So here I got all myself. The only thing I need to do is to crush my candy because this is too big. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to crush it. What I can do is just use. I'm going to use my rolling pin and I'm going to crush those candy bars. Maybe on the table. There we are. So that's the peppermint candy. That's it. You just need to crush it a little bit. There you are. Let's go before the candy here. For the chocolate, you can do two ways. So if you have little chips like this, like me, it's gonna be small enough to melt on your crepe when you cook it. If you want, you can also melt it. So you can melt your chocolate in the microwave if you want. So maybe I'm going to do it a little bit. So here mine, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to chop it a little more because it's a little big. They get a little crushed together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have very small pieces of chocolate, and because it's going to be very small, it's just going to be small enough to melt on my crepe when I cook it. If you have like big chunk of chocolate, you can cut it, or like I said, you can also melt it on your microwave. So like this, you can just use melted chocolate and have it on top of your.
Chef, you accidentally muted.
So I say we're going to get everything ready before we start cooking the crepe. Okay, so we just want to be ready. And again, that's what we call mise en place in French. Is a French term, sorry. It's just meaning to be ready and get all the tools, all the ingredients ready before you start. That's what restaurants do all the time. So they get everything ready before they start anything. So like this, they can go fast.
Chef, you said to use 60% chocolate. Can you have darker chocolate, or what does that do?
It's just because I think the dark chocolate go very well with the peppermint. You can use any kind of chocolate, obviously. It's just my preference is like the dark chocolate. 60% is not as bitter than others, but is not sweet.
Okay,
because
thank you.
To bring some sweet. So if you have sweet chocolate and candy, it's gonna be maybe a little too sweet.
Okay, thank you.
If you want, you can go even higher in cocoa if you want to have.
Yeah,
like
I was wondering, more bitter. Okay.
Please do it.
Okay. Sorry, Chef, one more question. If you were to add cognac or some kind of liquor, when would you add that to the chocolate and the mint, or probably wouldn't go with it?
I will add it to the batter.
Okay.
Unless you want to flambe it, like having your alcohol on top and then just have it on fire. That's the two way. The one way would be in the batter or just to flambe it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
If you flambe, I'm not responsible of your kitchen. If you want to flambe it, you need to make sure your alcohol is hot before starting anything, because if it's cold, it's not going to start. So you want to warm your alcohol, have it on top, or even use like a little saucepan and just heat your alcohol on the saucepan, and just by heating it is going to become flambe. I would say the liquor would be better on the crepe, so the milk regular flour. On the buckwheat, is depend which one, but most of it is going to be weird on flavors. As you could add it, the texture would be fine, but the flavor is going to be a little weird with the buckwheat flour. After you can try if you want.
Okay.
It's all about trying and do whatever you want. It's like very, very up to you. You can be creative and come up with. Why isn't this okay? Everyone ready? Sorry, I'm not gonna be finished to talking because we need to be ready for everything before we start. All right, so I got my chocolates. It's gonna be here, candy here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut some piece of cheese. So what's going to be important for the filling is to make sure we understand which one need to be cooked the most. Okay, some of it will cook longer than other filling topping. So you have to understand that. Like for example, an egg in the crepe is going to take a very long time to cook. So we need to play the egg. So here the cheese take a little time also to melt. So I can cut this. For example, the onions also will need to be cooked before that, before we add it on top. Because remember we said that the crepe is going to take a couple of minutes to cook. So obviously if you do like onions, if you do like some meat, if you want some ground beef or like any like sausage on it, you will want to cook it before the crepe. So what we're going to do now, we can take a little pan and, for example, me, I want to cook my onions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little pan. I'm going to switch the camera here. There you are. And I'm going to cook my onions before. Here we are. So I don't know what you're planning to do today. I had some onions just to show you that some ingredients, some topping need to be cooked before. We're going to cook the onion. I'm going to cook the onions just to show you that. And the spinach, if you do the spinach, as we say on the recipe with the brie, what you want to do is to snap the tail like this, okay? So you just want to keep the leaves. So what you can do is just take a little time to get all of them off, like this. So again, to make sure we are ready before we start cooking the crepe. So see, I'm going to take all of them. So when you cook the onions, I don't know if some people cook a lot or not, but onions, we want to cook it on a hot pan with some olive oil. So I'm waiting for the pan to be hot before I cook it. If you have any kind of meat, cook it before. The egg, we're going to cook the egg on the crepe. What we can do, like we can use like some smoked salmon. You can use a lot of topping. I mean, I would say my favorite will still be foie gras and gingerbread. I mean gingerbread. Yeah, gingerbread. Yeah.
So we have a few questions coming in for you. If you use apples or pears, should they be cooked in advance like the onions?
I would say you can do both way. If you want, you can just slice it, a very fine slice of pear and apples, and you can have it on top, or you can cook it, and you get some butter maybe on it, and cook it with some butter. That would be great too.
Great, thank you. And one more question. Somebody's sharing that they have an 8 or a 10-inch pan. Which should they use and what adjustments need to be made?
We're going to talk about the pan later, but the pan as wide as possible. Mine is looking like this. There's a flat, very wide compared to the other one, okay? But we're going to see that when we cook it. But get the biggest pan you can find. And what you want to do is to find as flat as possible. But we're going to see that when we get to cook it. I'm going to explain you why it's important. here. So let's make sure everyone is getting ready on the filling. Okay. That's one of our job or task here. All right. That's good. So for the spinach, you will see it's a little different than everything else because when you use like spinach, you want to cook it a little bit, but not too much. But the thing is, the crepe, if you do it on a crepe raw on a crepe, is not going to be hot enough to cook the spinach. So what I'm going to do for the spinach, so this is really for me, I'm going to cook it on my pan. So if you don't have onions, you can just heat your pan. Get a little olive oil in your pan, like I did for the onions. Make sure it's hot, and we'll get to cook on the pan with the spinach like 30 seconds, even less, like 20, 30 seconds. That's all. You really want to briefly cook it on the pan, like on the hot stove. So like this, we're going to cook it very quickly, cooking the spinach with some olive oil. And we'll see, you see, going to be like 20 seconds, 30 seconds max. That's it. Oh, mine are ready. When you start to see them doing, getting a little greener, I would say, you'll see it's going to get a little more greener. That's all. And that was like 20 seconds. Yeah, so I got my spinach. So I got some onions because I really want to show you that some filling need to be cooked well before. Spinach, you just do 20 seconds, and that's all. Up this, we don't need that. All right. So what we got here? We got spinach of brie. We got peppermint, and I got my chocolate chops to be melted on the crepe. Again, if you want to melt the chocolate first, or if you want to use, I don't know, Nutella or something like this, you can use it. All right. So now the best part. All right, let's see if everyone is ready. All right. So the pan, so we were talking about the pan earlier. It's what you want to do. So this is a very specific pan made for crepe. So obviously I have it from Brittany. I must have it. The goal is to have it as flat as possible. Okay. So this one is going to be like what, maybe a 12-inch wide, I would say. If you don't have that wide, it's completely fine. Your crepe is just going to be smaller. That's all. So just instead of make a big one, just make two small ones. Why is because the batter, when you got to cook the batter will only stick to the bottom of your pan. So if your pan is like curved, the batter will go down and go only on the center when where it's flat. So obviously you can have it as wide as possible, as flat as possible. But you will see any pan is good, non-sticky, of course. But like I say, if you have a little different pan, if you do like something, but even if you do like the one I use for the onions is curved here, so my crepe is gonna be just this size here. It's not a bad thing, it's just gonna be smaller, that's all. And we're gonna use that. What we want to do also is to get like a flat spatula. So I got this little specific guide, but if you want, you can use something like that, okay? Something flat to go under the crepe to be able to flip it. So we'll get something like this. We're going to need some butter. If you don't want too much butter, you can use olive oil, okay? Or like any vegetable oil. We're going to need a little paper towel to spread the butter or the oil on the pan. That's pretty much it.
Chef, can you use an electric griddle?
Oh yeah, anything, yeah.
What about a cast iron griddle? Is that too heavy?
No, it should be fine. That could be great. It's just gonna be a little more difficult to flip it, but why not? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to get my batter. All right. So here I'm going to use I'm going to start with the buckwheat to make the savory one first. So I'm going to show you the savory one. So I'm having the spinach and brie for the savory one. And then I'm going to use the flour, the crepe batter, so the milk and the flour for the sweet. I'm going to do chocolate and peppermint. But again, you can do any kind of combination you want. What you want to do is make sure you mix it again, the batter, because you will see the flour and the water kind of separate with time. Same thing with the milk and flour one. So don't be scared to mix it again before you use it. And you see it's very, I would say viscous kind of. But you don't want it to be too thick, okay? So if you have a little thick, when you make the crepe, if it's getting a little too thick, you can add a little water. And as we said earlier, with time, so when you got to leave it in the fridge for the few days coming, with time it will get thicker. So don't be scared to add some water. But when you add, it's like a tablespoon. Don't add too much because after it's going to be too liquid, and then you cannot add flour. You can add water or milk, but you don't want to add flour after that. So.
Chef, we have someone asking if you can take a look at their batter to see if it's too thick.
Who?
It's me.
Yes.
I'm Soltis. It's the buckwheat.
Yeah, it's a little bit too thick. It's almost here. Get a little water, but you're almost here.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe for the whole thing, maybe like a quarter of cup. That's it. For the
Very
whole
good.
batter, yeah.
Okay.
You see, mine is a little more runny. I don't know, like online is a little more difficult to show you. All right. So now the fun part. I'm going to show you the crepe. So let me, oops, stay here, okay. Let me show you first, and then you will do it after that. So first thing we need to do is to start your stove on high, okay, very high. What you want to do is to heat the pan. Your pan have to be hot, okay. So like this, we got to have the batter on the hot pan because we want to have the batter to stick on the pan as soon as possible to spread everything nicely. If your pan is not hot enough, you will see your batter will run everywhere. It's not going to stick to the pan, and you're not going to have it nice and thin. So make sure you wait for it to be hot. Then you need some butter to make sure we don't have the batter to stick too much on the pan. So everyone, make sure you look what I'm doing right now, because that's going to be fast when I'm doing it. You will need a little practice, I would say. Don't be ashamed if your first crepe is not as good as mine, because it's a little tricky, I would say, to get the move to do it. You will see you get to have to pour the mix and move and twist the pan at the same time. So not easy at first. And it's going to be very fast. Okay, so my fat's starting to be hot. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little bit of butter.
Chef, does it matter if the butter is salted or unsalted?
No, doesn't matter. Just think that if you use salted butter, you already have salt, so maybe don't add salt after that. If you, some people want to add some salt or not. All right, so my pan is on. My pan is hot. Okay, it's like a little smoky. It's gonna be very hot. Okay, that's what we want. So now what you need to do is, I'm going to do that way because I'm lefty. I'm going to pour the mix and I'm going to turn my pan like this, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to pour the mix to the center of the pan and I'm going to turn it to spread the batter everywhere around, okay, from the center. So let's do it. Everyone look, because that's going to be fast. I'm going to pour and turn at the same time, you see. I can add a little more, but up, there you are. I was fast, huh? Because like this, if you're not fast enough, it's gonna be too thick, okay? If your pan is not hot enough, it's not going to stick like my batter did. So make sure it's hot and pour and twist at the same time. So you need to use both hands at once. Then we're going to keep it high. So keep your pan, your stove high, because we're going to cook one side first and then we're going to flip it and we're going to add the filling after that. But the first side, we want to cook it fast. What you want is to check. So you're going to take your spatula, make sure it's not sticking. So you see, I'm going to very gentle. I'm going to check if it's not sticking to the pan. I can see move it like this. It's moving, so that's great. Now I want to make sure it's cooked. So I can kind of look under to see when it's cooked. You need to have a little brown color, okay? A very light brown color, but still a little color on it. Huh? All right, so this, it's almost ready. I'm going to have my cheese and spinach ready. Almost here. So we're going to take maybe like a minute or two on the first side to cook. Depending on the size, also depending on the thickness you do. So if you have it a little thicker than it should be, make sure you cook it well. Huh? All right. So if you want, if you're adventurous, you can just do it and flip it like this with your pan. watch out because sometimes it just break and go everywhere. You can just take your spatula and just turn it fast, okay? Don't be scared, just do it. Same as when you pour the mix. You really want to do it fast and not hesitate. So now I cook the first side, I just flip it. I'm going to turn down my stove because now I need more time to cook my filling on it, especially if you have like some eggs or something you need to cook it a little longer on the crepe, on the galette. You want to go slower. So for example, if I have an egg on the galette, I will have the eggs right now. That would be the first thing to do because that will be the longest to cook. So I could have the egg here right now. Make sure it starts to cook. And here today, I'm going to have some cheese. So I'm going to start with my cheese because the cheese needs to melt. So that's the whole thing, is to plan which filling will need the most cooking. So for example, the egg usually is usually the most, the ingredients we need the most time to cook. So start with the egg or start with the cheese to melt it. And have your stove on lower, like this is like medium, medium low, I would say. And here we have to make sure everything is cooked, especially with the egg. Just wait for it to be completely cooked. You can scramble the eggs on top. You can keep it sunny side down. That's very, very up to you. But just wait for it to be cooked. So my cheese, and so it's going to start melting. That's great. That's what we like in France. Nice melting, smelly cheese. And all right, so I'm going to add my spinach and onions on it. Like this. If you want to add a little salt, pepper, that's really by taste. I'm just going to leave it to make sure it's warming everything. But you see, that's why we cook the spinach first, because here the spinach on top will never cook on top of the crepe like this. It's not hot enough to heat the spinach. We want to see your crepe. All right, so mine is cooked. I'm going to make sure the under is also cooked. Okay. Make sure we have both sides of the galette cooked. My cheese is melted. If you have like an egg, you're sure the egg is cooked. And then I'm going to take my spatula and I'm going to fold the galette and close it. You can close it different way, huh? You can do different design, and that's it. Then on the pan, on the plate. There you are. That's my galette with brie and spinach here inside. And it's time to eat. So that's my savory one for me today. So now I'm going to do it again to show you again with the sweet one, so chocolate and peppermint. So like this, it's going to be the same process with this other batter. I'm going to get my other batter, so this one, so the crepe batter, not the galette one. Same thing, make sure you mix it again Okay. Because always got to need to mix the flour and the milk, like the buckwheat flour and the water split sometimes. This one is a little milk too. So I'm going to add a little milk in it too. Up, there we are. So I have to be liquid on this one. I will show you again. All right, you see it's very nice and runny. So let's do it again. First thing we need to do is to heat the pan. So get your stove on high and let your pan to be heated, okay? I'm gonna need some butter, my mix, and all my topping. So you see that's why we want to make sure everything is ready, because it was quick. It takes you like, I would say 3-4 minutes to cook everything. Especially if you are having some friend and family over, you want to cook it fast. That's actually one point I'm going to talk right now. So here we see we can cook the crepe and have the topping on top when you cook it. If you want, you could cook the crepes, so both sides without any filling, just plain batter. You cook both sides to make sure it's cooked, and then you can keep it aside when it's cooked for later. And then you just have to take the crepe back on the stove to warm it again, have your topping, and that's it. So it's a little easier for you if you have like a lot of people at once to just cook it first, then reheat and add your filling on it. It just, I would say, for flavors, the best here would be to cook it and have the flavor right away. But obviously, if you want to do make it a little faster, you can cook it first and keep it like this. So here I'm going to add some butter. So every time you make a crepe, make sure you add some butter or oil on the pan every time, because if not, it's going to stick. All right. So my pan is hot. So I'm going to do it again. And again, it's going to be fast. So you got to hold your pan with one hand. You got to pour the mix to the center of the pan, and you got to turn and twist the pan at once. So let's do this now. Let's do it now. All right, let's do it. See, and I turn at the same time. And I keep turning until the mix is completely set. Up. And now I got all of it. And you see it's not going on the side, because the side, when it's going up, is just going back down. So that's why the flat and the wide as possible is making you the big crepe. If not, you just do small ones. All right. So again, if you want, it's like this. If you want, you could do just cook one side, flip it, cook it without anything, and just have it on the plate, cover it, and for later. You can also eat it cold. Sometimes you just can cook like this, especially like this crepe, so the flour and the milk. Usually you can just cook both sides, keep it, and when it's cold, just add a little sugar, a little Nutella on top, and get it. So easy snack too. All right, so now we got to start checking. So don't be too fast on checking your crepe. See, I'm going to go around to make sure it's not sticking. You need a minute to make sure it don't stick anymore to the pan. So don't be too fast. Up, it says moving now. All right. I'm going to look under to see if it's nice and cooked everywhere under, especially in the middle. Got a nice color. Let's see if I can do it like this. How I would not failed. Almost. Here we are. So you see, I cook it first this side, then I'm going to turn it down. If you want to cook it without anything, just keep it high and cook both sides the same. Here I'm going to go lower. I'm going to add my chocolate. Okay. I'm going to add my chocolate everywhere. A lot of chocolate. Here we are. Nice chocolate. And get it low because you don't want to go too fast. Just want to melt the chocolate slowly. And then we got to have the peppermint. Like this. Right. So this one is very American, chocolate and peppermint. I need a little plate. So we got to make sure we melt the chocolate. We cook both sides. So I'm always checking on there to see if it's cooked with the color. So you want a nice little color everywhere. And you see my chocolate is going to be starting melting. Yeah, see here, melted. So that's why if you have a little piece of chocolate, it's just got to melt on the crepe. We could also use like melted chocolate and just with a spoon spread it on top. All right, and we got to close it. So you have different sides. You can close it like half on it. We can press it down a little bit in the middle and just fold it in 4. Why not? All right, I'm just going to cook it a little more. It's almost ready. Some people roll it. You can be, you know, like this, creative on different shapes, different flavors. All right, that's cooked. There you are. I'm going to have on my plate. And you know what? I'm going to make it holiday. We're going to have some snow. That's sugar, not snow. There you are. And we got the chocolate peppermint crepe. So you see, I did one sweet, one savory. But again, you can do any combination you want with that. All right. How's everyone doing? Looking good, the crepe?
I have a question, Chef.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to make it right now, but I got one of these crepe pans a long time ago. I haven't used it, but it has a flat edge here. If I move it around, will the mix just fall off?
It's gonna be on your technique to make sure it do not go over. But that's great because mine have a little like a little higher border, so that's kind of easier for me. But if you like really use the traditional machine for crepe, it's just a flat stone, and you have nothing around. So you're just going to spread the batter almost to the edge. Just leave a little space to make sure you don't drop it. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Chef. I haven't used it, so.
So it is good time to use it.
Okay.
Chef, can you freeze the batter or is it best to refrigerate?
Sorry?
Can you freeze the batter or is it best to refrigerate?
Do not freeze it. Yeah, in the fridge. You really don't want to freeze it. It will get bad. It's going to crystallize the water and the milk, and it's not going to be great after that. So yeah, in the fridge. So that's mean you need to eat all of it within this week. Sorry.
There are worse things. Would anyone like to share their finished products with us on screen? We'd love to see it. Oh, Mahala, is that with the triple berry mousse that you have up there?
Oh, nice. Brilliant apples work well. Looking good.
I'm afraid I ate the savory one already. It was too delicious to let wait.
Yeah, it's something you want to eat right away, so don't wait for it.
Well, thank you all so much. I don't know if we have any more questions for Chef while we still have him, but please feel free to unmute yourself or share anything. I've dropped in some social media handles if you'd like to share your photos on Instagram, Facebook, or anything along those lines. We'd love to see all of it. Chef, any parting words for our crepe makers as they continue on their journey today?
I went looking good, yes. Just, you know, everything about crepe. The crepe is more about having the flavors and the style you want. So you really want to play with it. That's the good point of crepe. It's kind of like pizza. You can do whatever you want. So that's why we love it. And it's easy. You just need to get used to the cooking on the pan, and that's all. After that, make a lot of them. You want to are you eating your crepe?
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you at future programming, and we hope you all have a very happy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.